meeting is being recorded here. Let's quickly review the agenda. I think we have a lot to talk about tonight.
Frank, can you speak up, please? They can hear you back here. Sorry.
Oh, the,
Here.
you need to do that. You need to push on for about 3 seconds, each one, until the green light comes on.
Can you hear me now? Somebody said we're doing karaoke tonight again. So we've got a full agenda, and thank you all for coming out. Real quickly, we'd like to go through the agenda so that everybody's aware of what's going on. And then if we have any changes to the agenda, we'll move on those. And then we'll get started. First item on the agenda will be reviewing and approving the minutes from the May meeting. We will then have an executive director's report with a number of items. Our next item of business will be a chair item on a formal complaint update that was filed by a parent about 30 days ago. We will then move to public comment. And I have up here a sheet. If anybody else needs to sign up, we've got about 8 or 10 people signed up now. Please come ahead and sign up. And then we'll go into the governance, the chair discussion item for the night, which many of you are probably here for, is to discuss parent and staff concerns of culture and management practices within the school. We'll then move on to the governance committee report. We're going to insert the finance committee. We missed them on the report. It'll come next, followed by education, fundraising, and then the Board of Trustees has an executive session, which will be a confidential session to discuss pending litigation and contract negotiations with non-represented personnel. And we need to go into executive session in order to preserve the confidentiality of the pending lawsuit. We do have one parent who has signed up to speak in public comment that has to depart. So Holly, if you need to depart before we get to this session, please let me know and we'll pause and give you a few minutes to talk. Are there any other items, Melissa?
Where do you want to review the survey results?
I'd like to review those in the chair discussion.
Where you want to do it, but we do have an person to vote on to the board, and normally we do that at the beginning. So
I'd like to do that first thing.
Okay.
But go right ahead, Pauline.
I have something else. Just because we have such a full agenda, we're also going to defer 2 governance committee items, which is the revisions to bylaws and school policy handbooks. We're going to defer those till the meeting.
We can't hear at all.
So we're going to, in the governance section, we're going to, in board operations, defer revisions of the bylaws and the school policy handbook review until a future meeting. They're not necessary to complete tonight. We'll probably run out of time. All right, Pauline, if you'd like to go through the nomination.
The governance committee has a candidate for the board that we would like to nominate. His name is Arthur Steller. And he is a former superintendent from a number of different municipalities in Massachusetts and nationwide. And Art, if you would like to make some comments.
Is the green light on? It might need to be pressed in for a few seconds.
It's on the
Pass it to me, I'll do it.
Sorry.
Press it down.
Doesn't hold, yeah.
Which one? This one?
Yeah.
None of us has passed this test.
Why don't you use?
Yeah.
Here it is. We got it. Oh. Thanks.
I've been in education a long time, so I'm used to this kind of thing. As stated, I've been a superintendent, school superintendent for 25 years. I chose that profession because of an assignment my junior year in high school. And I had an assignment to write a paper, and I wrote a paper about being a school superintendent, and I decided that I was going to be a superintendent. So that's what I did. So from that point on, everything I did was to determine what a superintendent needed to do, needed to learn. So I did my dissertation on public relations. I served as an elementary teacher. I taught special ed. I taught middle school, high school driver's ed. I was a school bus driver, coach, intramural director, elementary principal, director of elementary education in Beverly, Mass. Taught at the college level course on integrating the arts into the curriculum, and another course on administration. Let's see, what else did I do? Then I went to Montgomery County, Maryland, where I was the chief planner for that district. It's a district of about 120,000 kids. And then I went to Shaker Heights, Ohio, where we had the high school that I helped improve, and it became the named as the 12th best, or one of the 12 best public high schools in the country. We had the best library in the country also. Then I went to West Virginia, where I was superintendent. Then I went to Oklahoma City. I'll skip a few places I've been. I was in Boston as deputy superintendent and acting superintendent for about 6 months in Boston. And I've worked at a foundation. I was CEO and president of the High Scope Educational Research Foundation. Some of the educators may know that organization. Went to work for Renaissance Learning. It's a software company. And then I came back to Massachusetts, superintendent. And then I went to North Carolina, superintendent. So I've been around a little bit. I've done a lot of consulting. I've been a search consultant for superintendent searches. I've been a consultant for technology companies, school districts, organizations like ETS, College Board, so forth. I won't bore you with the rest of it. But anyway, I enjoy education and I want to learn more. Looking at this particular school and why I'm interested in the board and what I think I can help with the board and with the school is you've got a very special place here. I mean, you already know that. It's a very special school. The school and the students have the potential to be among the best in the country of any school. There's not a lot of places like that. So that's why I'm here, is to learn and to contribute and help make this school the very best it can be, which is already a very good school, and it's already special, but to help it make it even better. So that's why I'm here.
Any board members, do you have any questions for Art?
Where'd you get the tie?
What?
Where'd you get the tie?
It's almost the same size, yeah.
If we don't have any questions, then on behalf of the governance committee, I'd like to make a motion to Arthur Steller as a trustee, beginning 3 years from, beginning now for a 3-year term ending June 2017.
Second.
Second by Mike. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Welcome, Art. And Art, you are not an official member now, I think, until the Dee's background and investigation paperwork has happened, so you'll be a participant and a non-voter until it happens. So let's move to the minutes from the previous meeting.
I just had one comment.
Go ahead, Melissa.
In the public comments section, we broke it out into parent comments and teacher comments. I know that
think there's any need to call out whether it's parents or teachers. I think they came as people. So maybe let's
So
just
eliminate that.
strike the headings. Did you get that, Sarah?
So you're striking the
Just the headings, calling out the parents or the teachers, they're just their comments. Any other questions on the minutes?
Move to approve the minutes with the 2 amendments.
Is there a second? Chris? Melissa has voted to approve the minutes with the strikeouts,
And what was the other, you said 2 amendments.
It's both of them.
the two
Oh, I get
strikeouts.
it. Thank you.
Chris has seconded, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. All right, let's move to the executive director's report.
Thank you, Craig. So, over the past year, we've been working with a collaborative with Quinsigamond Community College, and we partnered with Assabet Valley, Marlboro, and Hudson. And it's a program which offers high school students an opportunity to earn 12 college credits that are transferable to any Massachusetts State University or community college. It's a 4-course sequence which starts in the fall of 2014 for juniors. So the way it works is each school recruits 5 students for a total of 20, and the goal is for them to take 2 courses in their junior year and 2 in their senior year, and at a really significant reduced cost. It's a great opportunity, as having those courses transfer is a major savings for these young people. Lisa Bergen's working, I believe she already has 3 students. She's looking for another couple, and we'll keep you posted on that.
So I actually went to the session that they talked about this, and there were a few parents in the audience from Amsa. I think the biggest question that a few of us had at the end was the sequence of the courses and the types of courses, because there's classes here, like the microcomputer applications, that maybe our students are, there's classes that maybe our students don't need to take based on the curriculum that they're taking here, so there's flexibility. So I think, is Lisa here, what if she works with the group to see if there's other opportunities, because there might be some things that are AMSA specific in terms of how the curriculum fits with what we're doing.
Great point, we'll pass that on. So yesterday, as we dismissed the faculty for the year, we began our first event in a series of upcoming events with our third-party consultant, Diane Hammer, who's referred to us. We were fortunate to have her. She comes from a 25-year background in organizational leadership and human resources and team building. So the first event was called A Bigger Game, and it's basically an activity designed to change and challenge people, to call them forth to be their very best, speaking of the human being that you're asking to create a better world, in our case, a better school. I believe it was very well received by our faculty. We received a lot of great feedback so far, so I think we're off to a good start. They will provide us with quite a bit of data, and the next stage will be interviewing a number of faculty and staff members over the summer, and hopefully we'll have some data to share with you this coming fall. For the next day or so, we'll have a letter sent out to the Amsa community regarding the Book Fest, which we did last year. After a number of discussions, the Book Fest committee has determined that the benefits of holding the second annual Book Fest this August did not outweigh the disadvantages. committee was sensitive to the disruption of family vacation time and the inconvenience felt by many parents who attend during summer hours. The committee plans to create streamlined procedures that will occur during school hours, which will have a minimal impact to learning time. And as I said, you'll get the comprehensive memo and alert now, I would say either tomorrow or the next day.
Yes.
Thank you, Sarah.
So, John, was the feedback from teachers that it was disruptive? Because I know that we had asked the question in the fall survey to see what parents thought. And that first day was pretty disruptive, but overall they felt if the program could be smoother like that second day, it was convenient.
I think there were a number of factors that were considered. There were some cost factors, I think, that were really, I think, had a lot to do with moving in a different direction. I think the committee has really spent a lot of time, and they feel that we will do what we set out to do and minimize the disruption to the teaching and learning.
Can we just have book lists for the year out early so parents can buy the non-textbook books? Yes, the ELA books.
That's part of the
Oh.
bullets now.
Those are for summer reading.
The memo, I think, will address a lot of it.
Yeah, like, there's gonna be an event at Barnes & Noble in August, like we've done in the past.
So somebody brought to my attention yesterday there in the Wish to Go local, which also does a ranking. They use different criteria for the Massachusetts top high school. And Amsa made great gains in their poll. In 2013, the ranking was 19 and moved up to 6th this year, which goes with our moving from 3rd to 2nd in the U.S. News and World Report. So we can all be very proud of that. So yesterday, when we concluded our workshop, I asked the faculty and actually the teachers, any teachers who wanted to meet for an informal discussion regarding the desired attributes of an effective principal from a teacher's perspective, as we will be making that decision over the next week or so. Those teachers who attended provided valuable input and suggestions that are in keeping with our criteria, that which I discussed with department heads, including accessibility, compassion, patience, being a good listener, career educator, somebody with years of experience in school administration, being able to connect with all teachers and departments, and the ability to promote trust and to ensure a safe working environment. So I think we have a good idea as to who the right candidate may be. We'll continue to consider options. Given the uniqueness of Amsa, we will try to promote from within our school. I'm also pleased to say that 2 of our strong faculty members are now in leadership program and aspire to become future administrators. And Mr. Lebowski just completed his program. He's now a certified licensed Massachusetts administrator. So congratulations to Mike. There was one last item. We, at the last meeting, brought up the possibility of looking into forming a school council to create a forum for communication within the school community. My 10 years as a principal, I had a school council, and it was a formidable group. It's an advisory group. It would become an advisory group to the Board of Trustees. Their task would be to draft a school improvement plan on an annual basis, and the council would consist of parents, members of the faculty, staff, students, and members from the community if they were interested. So we're excited about pursuing that. I think we heard loud and clear from the parents that it was something they were interested in. There were actually 2 or 3 parents that reached out after the last meeting and already expressed an interest of moving forward. So we'll begin that initiative, and hopefully we'll start our Amsa School Council in September.
If I could have the mic, please.
So John, can you hear me? So I just want to thank you, John, for mentioning that and also bringing up the notion of the school council. I think with the current climate that exists today, you know, there's, I think what many folks are aware of, there's the blog out there. I think the blog was started with good intention to allow for communication and allow folks to have a mechanism to speak. One of the challenges, I think, is, though, it's not necessarily controlled in the sense of how does it affect positive change. And I see the school council as an opportunity to meet that, I'd say, gap that exists in our environment today. We're all maturing as an organization, and I think this is a great step. And I would strongly urge teachers and parents to be involved in the school council. It's a great way. I'm not too familiar with the notion, but I've looked up on the DESC site. They have information on it. It assures representation of teachers and parents at an equal level, and it's not run, even though the principal is involved, it's not staffed by administration. So it's a great opportunity for folks to get their points across and then bring it in a very packaged way, if you will, to the board and potentially affect very good change. So I really encourage folks to look into it as it becomes assembled and to be involved in it.
Thank you, Craig. That's all I have.
Thank you. So we have a piece of chair business, and this is.
Before we go, Cory, can you elaborate on the principal search?
It's, when you have to transition this quickly, and you have only a couple of months before the start of school, there really isn't a possibility to do so. We have a lot of work to get done. We need to get somebody in place. And I believe we'll pick the right person.
So I know that a couple of years ago we talked about how we had somebody in math and science background as the principal and somebody with a humanities background as the assistant principal. Are we trending back to that direction?
Well, I think you limit yourself, certainly, in the candidate pool, whereby our department heads are our curricula experts. I believe that it's more important than a principal is a leading administrator where the building consensus is concerned, and we are structured where departments pretty much drive the reform and take care of their individual department. So I think that would be less critical at this point.
And John, just one other question. Are you considering an interim appointment or a permanent appointment?
I guess it would depend on what the 2 or 3 candidates would be interested in accepting.
Can you repeat it?
Yeah, I think John said there's a couple candidates within the school that are qualified and are potential candidates, and he'll be working to figure out which ones are right for either interim or permanent placement. Did you have a question?
With the principal's position, is that something that needs to be officially posted and made available for any interested party to put an application in? How, or do you elaborate on the posting process for a principal's position?
If you want a posting, we can certainly do that.
Thank you. Okay, so we are going to go on to an update on a formal complaint that was filed about a month ago. And I'll ask Tom to give an update on it. I don't think we're complete yet, but just a short update would be useful.
Thank you, Craig. So we did receive a formal complaint. The investigation is ongoing at this point in time. We have conducted interviews. There are more interviews to be conducted. We have reviewed policies, and we believe that changes need to be made to the policies at this point in time. We think it's an isolated incident, and we think that credit cards were not handled in an appropriate manner. Security and credit cards.
You have to hold it close.
Hold it vertically. I think I can figure that out. Thanks for the feedback. It's an ongoing investigation. Interviews have been conducted, and more interviews are still to be conducted. We have reviewed policies. We have made recommendations to change policies at this point in time. We believe that this is isolated to 2 credit cards that were received over the phone. That is not in compliance with the new policy that we've implemented. So anybody that's provided a credit card number through the website, or anybody that provided a credit card number at BookFest is not impacted by this. People that would be impacted by this are anybody that's provided a credit card number over the phone. That's the status of the investigation at this point in time, and we will provide a formal readout when the investigation is done.
Thank you, Tom. And do you have a timeline on the complete investigation?
We do not have a timeline on the complete investigation at this point, but we will report back at the next board meeting on any updates.
Thank you, Tom. So we'll move to a public comment section.
So we need to change our password.
So we have had, there were 2 members of the board on the task force, with Tom as the chair. We've asked Chris O'Keefe to step in and also be a member, and Allison is going to be stepping back from the task force. So Chris will be taking on those responsibilities for us. Thank you, Chris. All right, so we've got public comment. We have $11 folks who've signed up for this. If you could keep your comments to 2 or 3 minutes, we would appreciate it. And we'd also ask you to be civil. I know that emotions are running high. Please ask the questions, make the statements that you feel are important to come out, but please keep them not of a personal nature and above the board. The microphone's here. Our first public comment is Monica Burnett.
I just had a, is this on?
No, there's a button right there at the clasp on the top, down the barrel of it, right? See it right here? This little,
Oh,
just
so I have to
hold it
push
for a second. The light come on?
Just grab this.
Oh, there it is. Hello?
Yeah, it's working,
Okay.
thank you.
All right, I just had a couple of comments on the last meeting because I did not have a chance to prepare ahead of time and really didn't know the process. Just regarding the recent changes in staff and turnover, my understanding is that teachers at Amsa are employees at will, just like I am. And while it's difficult news when we hear a teacher hasn't gotten renewed for one reason or another, that's the meaning of at will. And we all kind of have to accept that Amsa can't really disclose details about the departure of a beloved teacher, but my employer couldn't disclose anything if I were to leave the company either. Performance review process that was discussed at the last meeting isn't very different from the review process that many of us go through every year. I know in my case, my boss will look at my work, the quality of my work, and solicit input from my stakeholders. Once in a while, one of them isn't perfectly happy, but the assessment is generally done on the overall quality of all of my work. And I actually look forward to this because it's a great opportunity for feedback. I keep hearing also that the staff feel bullied. We really need to be very careful with this term. I once worked with a guy who was one of the nicest people you'd ever want to meet, and he was also very good at what he did. One of our colleagues regularly delivered defective software, and Paul would call him on this each and every time. And that person would often complain to others that Paul was bullying him. Well, I sat a few feet from Paul, and honestly, Paul was very direct and asked questions and was respectful, but he stuck to his point. And ultimately what happened in this case is the person went to HR, and it took about 12 people coming forward to defend Paul in order to defuse the situation, which really didn't need to happen in the first place. And I bring this up because I think, sometimes it's perception. I know our executive director is a little like Paul. I think he's got a strong personality and he's very direct. And people might perceive that they're being bullied. If a teacher or an employee is receiving feedback that is meant to be constructive, but they're not really open to hearing the feedback, would they maybe interpret that as being bullied? I mean, if things are really that bad at Amsa and people think that things aren't going so well, why would the administration was bullying everyone, why would they bring in a third party to assess the school? There's nothing to gain there. And last time I noticed many of the staff did get up and speak about the positive experiences at Amsa. And one thing I'll say is if there's a lot of bullying going on, that's really good to keep people quiet, but people don't come forward and advocate if they're being bullied. And lastly, Amsa isn't perfect, but as far as I'm concerned, it's light years ahead of just about every public and private school in the state. The data backs that up. And instead of calling for firings and resignations and unions, could we put aside our differences and figure out how to move forward in a positive fashion? We need to really be mindful of accusations that get thrown around on the internet. Our kids are getting a really, really great education here, and there are many outside forces that would really like to see the school fail and fail fast. And let's not give them the ammunition. We don't want to destroy ourselves from within. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer Holton.
My name is Jennifer Holton. I'm the parent of 2 Amsa students, and I had the pleasure of serving as vice president of the PTO while the Admiral was our school's leader and president under the current executive director. When my family first came to Amsa, I used to hear about a time when Amsa was in crisis. I was curious about it, so I dug up some articles from the local papers. It turns out that parents asked the board to take an honest examination into the performance of the executive director. There were concerns over teacher attrition and the frustrations of an overburdened and apparently politically fearful staff. According to one parent, we questioned the emotional health of the school. There were also concerns about the math and science curriculum. The board listened. They acted. They did that honest examination. Well, here we are again. It's 6 years later, in a similar environment of fear and fractured trust, but this time spreading through all AMSAs of life at Amsa, including hiring practices, finances, safety, grants and donations, special education, grading, clubs and activities, and workplace ethics. After 9 years with no union, relations with the executive director are so fractured that the majority of teachers have sought representation with Teamsters Local 170. Perhaps most troubling is the fear that those tasked with leading AMSA into the future will lack the will or the desire to hold our school accountable to the high standards of our charter. Why? Is it because it might be harder with the new demographics where our school really reflects the charter and primarily serves the 4 core towns? Parents have asked questions, at first quietly and politely, and then a little louder. It doesn't seem to matter how loud we ask, there haven't been answers. Perhaps the most important question before us is who will be our new principal. The executive director has sole discretion in this hire. He has stated that he prefers to promote from within. Another reasonable question would be, doesn't AMSA deserve an appropriate, deliberate, professional search that is not limited to the shallow pool of internal candidates who are both licensed and from the fields of math or science to comply with the charter? So where does that leave us? What can the board do? It would seem that the board could get some answers. It would seem that the board could provide these answers to the AMSA community. It would seem that the board could perform the same kind of honest examination initiated by the parents in 2008. It would seem that the board could and must hold the executive director accountable. Thank you.
Laura Thompson.
My name is Laura Thompson. I am the parent of 2 AMSA children. I have to confess, I am an absentee AMSA parent. I don't get to be here a lot. So my observations are being made from 10,000 feet. AMSA has given a ton to my children. I am incredibly grateful for what they have received here, and there is so much good here. I want to take a moment to acknowledge that whatever the atmosphere is right here, it is not healthy right now. I think we've all acknowledged that. It has been a difficult environment from what I understand for the entire year. Kudos to the teachers of AMSA that most of our children have no idea how difficult the work environment was for these teachers this year. And I would like to take a minute to acknowledge that. Again, from 10,000 feet, I don't know what goes on here day to day, but when an environment gets as toxic, somebody else's turn, as it is, right now, I don't think there's any conclusion that can be made other than there is a failure of leadership. There is a crisis of confidence in the leadership of this school, and it's beginning to spill over into the leadership of the board, because I understand, I've read the charter, I'm a lawyer, I understand that you're in a governance role, but governance can be interpreted broadly and narrowly. And one of the most important decisions you make is to appoint and evaluate the executive director. It may be the most important decision that you make. I ask that you pause, you pull back and look at the criteria that you set when you decided what are the characteristics and qualities you want in this person. And I ask that you objectively evaluate. Is this the leader that the school needs? Is he demonstrating the leadership qualities that we want? You may decide that he is. I'm not close to this. I don't know day to day what is going on here. But one thing that is painfully clear is there is an absolute lack of communication, vision, and an inability, it appears, to gain the support of the staff for wherever the train is going. And that is a critical element of leadership, okay? If you can't get your staff on board with you, and you're not gonna get all of them, we know that, okay? But if you're trying to drive the bus and you look back and there's no one on the bus with you, you've got a problem. And I'm not saying there's no one on the bus, but I think you guys really need to pause and think about what are the qualities that a leader needs to have, and do we have it? Again, I'm not in a position to make this evaluation. The other thing I would ask of you is to seriously consider the third-party contractor. Who is the person? I understand the person has been identified. Does the board have any say at all in what the criteria and qualities and credentials were of the person that was picked? Is the person reporting to the executive director? Is the information coming raw data to the board or through the executive director or to a committee, perhaps, that will then be presented to the board? It is very important at a time like this that there is integrity in process and data. Critical, because we have a crisis of confidence. And so the processes that you've set to evaluate what is going on are of utmost importance at this time. The last thing I would ask of you is that you conduct a blind survey of the teachers that does not get funneled through the administration. And you get that raw data and you evaluate it. From what I understand, the teachers are afraid to speak up. You cannot ask that their opinions be funneled through the environment that they're in fear of. Again, I'm being bold. I don't come here every day. I don't work here. I may be off base. But these are not radical management proposals here, okay? I lead teams of people. I'm evaluated 360. I'm evaluated right, left, center. I evaluate my own teams. And one thing I will say is that if anybody in my team is mistreating somebody else in my team, I'm accountable. I hold myself accountable. When I stay awake at night, it's because I know I don't have one of my team members on board with me. That's what leaders do. I'm not a perfect leader. I want you guys to give this some serious consideration. My kids have had a wonderful experience here. I would say 90% because of the teachers. We have got to support our teachers. They are professionals. They deserve respect. They are employees. And you are stewards of this organization, and you are charged under the charter with making sure it's complying with laws and that it is organizationally viable. Please take those responsibilities seriously at this time. Thank you very much.
Let me start by apologizing to whomever I just cut in front of, because I need to leave a little early here. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Holly Horrigan. I have 3 children here at this school, and I'm a former parent rep on the Board of Trustees. I want to address the status of the formal complaint that my husband and I filed regarding unauthorized credit card charges. Yesterday, my husband emailed the task force, Allison and Tom, to request an update on the board's investigation and to reiterate our request for copies of Amsa's procedures and policies for handling financial data. We also requested information regarding any attorneys that had been retained by Amsa in relation to our complaint. We were first brushed off. Then, when we persisted with our requests in the form of a public records request, Allison accused us of slander. She also instructed us to never communicate with her again. Well, I am here to communicate. And let me be perfectly clear. And this goes for admin watcher and captain as well. I do not take accusations of slander lightly.
Neither do I, Ms. Horgan.
My
Neither
husband
do I.
and I have
you
the
have
floor.
completely,
I have the
that
floor,
is fine,
Ms.
but you
Cohen.
have completely misstated. You have completely misstated what has transpired.
Ms. Cohen,
I
I
am
have the
objecting
floor.
right now
I'm
to
going
the
to
speech that you're
continue.
making.
My husband and I have done nothing to slander anyone. You need to apologize. Furthermore, if you don't want parents to communicate with you, you need to step down. You are a member of a public board, one that represents all stakeholders, including parents. I am entitled to ask questions, and I am entitled to answers. This entire process has been a joke. More than a month has passed, and there is no sign of any substantive action on the board.
or the administration that one might reasonably expect with this type of incident. It should not be for the few parents who are able to make it to the board meeting to understand that, well, if you gave your credit card to Amsa over the phone, you may be affected. That's really poor process. I'm expecting the requested documents that I made in the public records request within 9 days. I'm expecting a substantive written update on the complaint by July 1st. Thank you.
Let's keep it brief, and we need to tone down the communications about this matter as we investigate it.
Thank you, Ms. Horgan, for that lovely speech. Unfortunately, it's completely inaccurate in terms of what transpired with regard to your complaint. You filed a complaint which Tom Taverna and I were assigned to. We communicated with your husband, and you were noticeably absent. We requested additional information, which you were slow to provide. Ultimately, the confidentiality of the communications that you were providing to us were something that we were very concerned about, and we were intent on making sure that it was investigated in full course, not in a rush to judgment manner. That was for your benefit as well as for the person's benefit as to which you had made the complaint against. When we went ahead and then asked you for further information, we received an email from your husband indicating that somehow there was a mishandling or a failure to comply with the proper procedures under DEAS and under the CMR, to which I explained to your husband very simply that we are actively involved in investigating this complaint, and we are clearly complying with all of the rules and the regulations under the Code of Regulations. To which I then received a response email from your husband accusing me of somehow misinterpreting my role in representing the school board as an attorney, which clearly I have not been assigned as an attorney. I sit on this board as a volunteer member to represent everybody that's part of this community. I have a daughter that attends to the school. I have 2 other children that will be attending as well. The allegations were so unfounded and to me so completely inappropriate, I emailed you to suggest at that point to please no longer contact me because I felt that the investigation on my behalf had been compromised. I immediately notified the chair, to which an additional person has been put in place, this gentleman over here who is very competent and who will continue the investigation in a manner which is worthy of the investigation. Not a rush to judgment, not a place in which we are making accusations that are somehow unfounded until we have all the evidence in hand so that we can protect you and protect anybody else that's within this administration or this school to make sure that they are heard and they are dealt with appropriately and accordingly. There's a very basic principle under the law that you are innocent until proven guilty, and I would hope and suggest that everybody at least conduct themselves in a manner which is professional, allow the process to continue, and transition with integrity through all of these issues, not allowing other matters that are in your mind, maybe other things that you're upset about, to come forward in the manner in which I perceived it was coming forward as a direct attack against me. And I'm sure the investigation will continue from this point and will continue on with integrity.
And I'll state as the chair that I'm satisfied the investigation has integrity and is moving forward. Mark Sweeney is our next public commenter.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Thank you. My name is Mark Sweeney, and before I begin, I'd like to mention that I am no relation to Jay Sweeney, the former principal. Not that that would be a bad thing, but I just wanted to clarify that. I am the proud parent of a 2014 Delta class graduate, and I would like to thank all the teachers who were involved in my son's education, and especially the guidance department, who guided my son with care and compassion, resulting in several college acceptances. So thank you. I have been part of the Amsa community for 7 years, starting as coach of the middle school basketball team, serving as a member of the Board of Trustees, and ultimately working with all 3 executive directors. I am now a member of the board of the Amsa Foundation, the original and only nonprofit established with the school and the only affiliated organization to have IRS 501c3 status. I'm speaking to you today because while it is clear that this is a time of crisis for the school, I still believe that the Advanced Math and Science Academy is a great example of how a charter school can provide a world-class education to students of all backgrounds. At the last Board of Trustee meeting, I listened closely to concerns about a toxic atmosphere of bullying and harassment on the part of the administration. I wanted to understand what was driving that perception and how such an atmosphere could be created. So I reached out to former members of the Board of Trustees. I talked to past and present PTO officers. I talked to Amsa Foundation board members, and I have spoken with dozens of parents. What I learned was that the fear and mistrust of the current administration runs through every aspect of school culture, including the teacher's workplace, student life, and Amsa's financial management. This is some of what I learned through my discussions. The teacher's workplace has been addressed already, and it's true that after 9 years with no union, there's more than a majority of Amsa teachers that feel there's no recourse to them but to form a union. The fact that teachers are voting on such an issue highlights a clear mistrust in the administration and a division amongst the teaching staff. Student and family life. In the fall of 2011, the school retained the services of 3 separate engineering firms to evaluate the school buildings for mold, the HVAC system efficiency and ability to heat and cool the school space, and the building's fire and sprinkler system. The reports identified numerous deficiencies that represented clear health and safety risks, and several of these remain issues today. When PTO officers reported parent grievances and concerns, administrative staff asked the names of the parents and students seeking assistance. The PTO officers voted in April of 2013 to change the bylaws of the organization so that officers who were asked for inquiries to be confidential had to respect the request and protect the parents and students. In 2012, after a Board of Trustee meeting, the ED engaged in a heated debate with the then chair of the BOT and physically threatened him. Financial issues at the school. In the 2011-12 fiscal year, the ED authorized 20 to 25% pay raises to 3 of his administrative staff without BOT discussion or authorization. In the spring of 2012, the ED sequestered the Amsa Foundation financial records after being denied his request for $20,000 for scholarships to graduating seniors. Scholarships are not permitted under the founding documents. When he was denied this request, the ED removed the foundation from the Amsa website and requested that all funds be returned to the school. An attorney with more than 200 nonprofit clients was retained by the foundation to review the organization's documentation. His written recommendation to the Amsa Board of Trustee officers was that the ED no longer be allowed to request funds from the Amsa Foundation. Recently, a parent reported to the foundation that his check made out to the Amsa Foundation, intended for a tax-deductible contribution to a nonprofit organization, was in fact deposited in the charter school account. Since the ED has been in his current position, there have been at least 6 full school staff gatherings with an open bar for several hours. The details of the funding for these events needs to be clarified. These are just a few of the many accounts I have listened to over the past few weeks. There are many more examples that illustrate the tactics and management style of the ED. To try and assist the Board of Trustees, and on the advice of some of the professionals referenced, parents, in an effort to help, have sought out the expertise from several outside organizations, and are presently in contact with the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, the Department of Revenue, and the Office of the Inspector General. The atmosphere at Amsa has changed dramatically over the past 3 years. And the undeniable fact that there is fear, not only in our teaching staff, but in parents for their children, is an unacceptable school environment. I would encourage the board to investigate and take appropriate action. In light of all of these situations and the many more still to be disclosed, Mr. Bricado, if you care at all for the future of the Amsa Charter School, I ask that you tender your resignation.
My wife and young son keep me rather busy, not to mention the heavy course load my hardworking fellow teachers and I all experience, a fact that many on this board know firsthand, as I have taught many of your children, and they have suffered for it, I am sure. However, as I sat and listened, the often private issues we face as a school became more and more public. Like many of my colleagues, I sat and watched 4 department chairs rise and speak of the success and aptitude of our then current administration with wonder. Again, I want to make it as clear as I can that I do not speak for the staff as a whole, but as I sat and watched the public comments and most of the subsequent debate amongst the board about the turnover and retention rate and loss of amazing colleagues and teachers like Kelly Powers, I was bewildered and discouraged by the open airing of our problems and the apparent tone deafness of many who spoke. As I said before, I do not want to point fingers at administration, but instead add something to the narrative that has been growing recently. As has already been noted, Principal Jay Sweeney has resigned his position, and we as a school must now fill a great void left by his departure. It should also be no surprise to the board and the parents and teachers in this room that his departure is not a magic bullet that will somehow answer the problems we face as a school. I fear Mr. Sweeney's departure may come to serve a purpose that I do not think he himself meant for it to fulfill. I do not want his resignation to be a false signal that things are changing. The principal is gone. Now all can be well. The fact of the matter is, his resignation does not solve our systemic problems. For all of his faults, and for all the disagreements I had with him, at his core, Mr. Sweeney did what he felt was best for the school during his 9 years at Amsa. He may very well be doing the same now, but I fear he may become a sacrificial lamb in the midst of our greater problems. And it is the subject of years of service that I wish to turn the board and the audience's attention to now. Mr. Sweeney spent 9 years serving this school, its students, and its parents. What is being missed here is that quietly, almost completely forgotten, is that Richard Deneen has left as well. Like Mr. Sweeney, Rich served Amsa for 9 years. He served as a teacher, a coach, an assistant principal, a principal, and even for a fleeting moment, he sat with you as the executive director. Rich decided to leave this school, a school he helped build, for reasons that only he truly knows. We all know, and we have talked about it ad nauseum, of the environment our school is currently experiencing. An environment first clarified by Kelly Powers, and an environment that likely led to Rich's decision to leave. However, as a teacher who was hired by Rich, a teacher who most in this room know is passionate about his job and his students, perhaps a little too much, they are your children that we all work for. I can say that his loss and the apparent disregard for his role at this school will be harder for us as staff to handle. Rich was the rock of our staff. He was a mentor to many of us, including myself. He kept us grounded when we needed it, and I needed a lot. He picked our heads up when they were down, and my head was down a lot this year. In essence, as one of you once said, Rich was the patriarch of this staff. The loss of our patriarch should not go unnoticed and unrecognized. In the midst of all of the end-of-year emails and speeches, I think it is important that we recognize Rich's work for our school, that we take a moment to both thank him and question once again, why are we losing good teachers? I would like to thank you all for your time, and also to take this opportunity that I rarely get to thank all the parents in the room, who deserve just as much applause and admiration for the work that they do with the school and for the work that they do with their children, who make this school the place that I enjoy coming to work at day after day. Thank you.
Awesome, we'd appreciate it.
Greetings. Can you hear me?
Get closer to the mic.
Alrighty, I'll bend down. How about that? So, greetings. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak this evening. When we start, I must wonder why and how it is possible that the administration has created an atmosphere where teachers are distrustful of each other, where parents are pitted against parents, and teachers are unionized. None of this is a good sign for the long-term viability of this school. This yields an answer that something must be changed at the top. Let me start with how John Mercado really feels about retention of students. I'll quote you an email that he's leaked. Lisa, these are the issues that will not recur when our leadership structure takes hold. To begin with, we will communicate more efficiently. If we have a protocol, we need to follow the process within the required timeline. Sounds good, right? If we do not, you should create a policy. I will help you develop a manual for guidance and college counseling services if you do not already have one. Jay is experiencing the same frustrations with the students who should have been retained. Summer school should not serve as a gateway to promotion. That's problematic. For me, my kid had troubles and wanted to go into summer school, was denied. Is the summer school program under your supervision? In any event, no parent will ever jump you or Jay to get to me. Open door policy? That doesn't sound like it. I never have and never will sell out. They, meaning parents, can cry, moan, and threaten sue. With 500 on the waiting list, losing these families will never be an issue. Let me know how the situation plays out. We are going to do some great things for the students here. And that last part's a great attitude to have. Here's your retention goals as given to the school committee of Marlborough. Students at risk of dropping out of school. My daughter. Goal, provide for the academic and emotional well-being of students. Strategies, expand guidance and SPED department training in adolescent behavior, tools for intervention. My kid didn't get any help. Students who have dropped out of school. Prevent a student from leaving the program. Strategies, administrative guidance, teacher intervention, and parent involvement. We had a number of SPED kids left last year. These goals are not being met. It's because Mr. John Mercado does not believe in them. So, once again, 5 or 6 years later, we have the same problem as when Amsa's original founder left, and it starts at the top. So in an article from the Metro West Daily News in 2008, parents were asking the board to take an honest examination of the performance of the executive director. I asked the same. There were concerns over teacher attrition. We have this now. The frustration of an overburdened and apparently politically fearful staff. We have the same issue. We question the emotional health of the school. After 9 years of Amsa, things are incredibly broken with the executive director. We have questions about hiring practices, finances, registration, grants, donations, special education, grading, clubs, activities, workplace ethics. It is so bad that the Teachers Union is coming to the teachers' aid because they no longer feel that they can get it done themselves. Does anyone think that teachers want to go through all the stress, time, and monetary costs? I doubt it. In fact, Jay Sweeney has resigned. Again, another telling sign of troubles. And I believe the teachers, administration, and parents should all have input into the hiring of a new principal. And quite honestly, does anybody here believe that my data will end there? I've got a whole thing of notes over there. It will not stop. I will continue to be able to extract more data as time goes on. Amsa leadership leaks many emails directly to parents. I'd like to go on about financials, but because you've asked for me to be short, I will cut it that short. But I do believe the financial details, you can do it line item breakdown. You should do it according to DESE. If I ask for it, you should give it. If not, I can register a complaint. And thank you for your time, and I look forward to Amsa administration becoming more professional and transparent. Until this happens, expect me to continue to dig up information presented at each BOT meeting. Believe me, I have a lot more waiting in the wings. You guys lead data. Thank you.
I'm following up tonight on the comments that I made at the last DOT meeting. At that time, I asked for itemized budgets from the year 2010 until the present, and detailed accounting of the Sprout funds and how they were spent, and the oversight of those expenditures. And in my emails to Mr. Picado, I extended that to all of the foundation monies. I also asked for details regarding the Faculty Rep Council. I got an email from Sarah Snow setting up a meeting, and then that meeting was canceled with no explanation. I didn't hear from Mr. Picado for quite some time, and then I emailed him again, and he told me that my concerns would be addressed at the Finance Committee meeting of the Board of Trustees. I sent an email clarifying, because it didn't make sense to me that the Faculty Rep Council would be addressed at the Finance Committee meeting, and I did not hear back from him. So to date, I did attend the Finance Committee meeting and waited to see if my concerns would be addressed, and a parent raised the issue that we were asking for line item budget, and we were told that the level of detail in the budget that's posted on the DESE website is all that the school is required to provide. However, that information is public information, as I understand it, and as such, it's protected by the Freedom of Information Act, and I have filled out a letter requesting that information, and I will be presenting it to Mr. Picado at the end of this meeting. I still would like to meet with you to discuss what has happened to the Faculty Rep Council, because I think it has something to do with the atmosphere at the school. And the last thing I'd like to say is that, considering the climate that exists at the school, I believe it would be prudent to broaden your search beyond these walls for a new principal.
Good evening. I'd like to first say that we love Amsa, and my child is in Mr. Jewell's homeroom, and we just love all the teachers, and my son is just really having a great time at the school. What I'd like to talk about today is the feedback loop in terms of how the board, the administration, hears back from teachers and from parents. And I'd like to give you some facts that I learned about from the forum, and Melissa also sent me some survey results. Just dive into that a little bit. Actually, to address, Monica, your question as to how teachers are evaluated here. There was a teacher survey conducted in the fall of 2014, and there were, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but one thing that sort of caught my eye there was that 62% of teachers disagreed or strongly disagreed that they understand how teachers are evaluated. So that sort of brings back the point that who's evaluating them? They don't understand how they're being evaluated. 60% of them. So that's sort of troubling to me. 60% agreed or strongly agreed that they are afraid of giving their opinion to the administration. 60%. 17 disagreed or strongly disagreed that work environment is free of harassment and discrimination. And then 45% agreed or strongly agreed that they were considering leaving Amsa. And 52% of them stated that the reason was that it was due to lack of support from the administration. So the questions are, what did administration do with that data? Was there an action plan? Was that action plan presented to the board members? Was it executed? My personal feeling is that it wasn't, because Kelly Powers left, because teachers are unionizing, because other teachers are leaving. But that's just my personal opinion from learning what's going on. but can we learn as to how does the administration deal with that feedback from the surveys? So that's teacher survey. Then I asked Melissa for data on the parent survey, and she wasn't able to share the survey from spring 2014 because that's something that you guys can discuss today. But she did send me presentations for fall of last year and spring of last year. And in the fall presentation, it said that 14%, 76 people, are unsatisfied, very unsatisfied with the leadership and direction provided by administration. Percentage of respondents unsatisfied with the administration and teacher responses to parents' concerns increased 4 to 6 times from spring 2013 to the fall. For example, there's a question, administration responses to your questions and concerns unsatisfied in spring was 10 people to 2.6%, unsatisfied in the fall was almost 12%, 59 people. Very unsatisfied went from 11 people to 25 people. So again, has any action item been taken as a result of that survey? I'm looking forward to seeing how that dynamic played in this survey. But basically, just knowing that there are only a few people attending the board meetings, but how do you capture what people think and what they want, and how do you address that? So the other two things that I wanted to point out just from listening what has been said in the meeting before is there's this third-party survey that is being conducted. I didn't fully get as to how the people who will be interviewed are going to be picked. Can anyone participate in that, or are they going to be somehow picked from a pool? So I think it's very important that everybody is given a chance to participate, teachers, parents, and that anonymity is being provided. I think that's, somebody already said that, that's a key point, that it has to be anonymous. There's so much fear. If any of you are reading the forum, a lot of people have their alias because they're just afraid to speak up. They are afraid of retaliation. And finally, the school committee, I'm excited to know that it's being formed. I was wondering if students are going to be participating. I know we're trying to get the students out of this, but it is important that they have their voice. And I don't know if I'm allowed to make a motion, but I think that the school committee, I'm not?
Joking.
The school committee must be involved in the search for the new principal. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mark Pidle. I teach 6th grade English. I teach AP Psych. I coach cross country, and I coach the track team, which about 1 out of 6 students participated in this past spring. It was a great pleasure. It was almost like the Marine Corps. It was wonderful. I'm here for 2 reasons tonight. Speaking directly to the board, I have to put on my glasses because unfortunately I've lost my vision. First, I'd like to read you a quotation from the introduction of one of our plays we teach at the upper school. It reads, "They believed, in short, that they held in their steady hands the candle that would light the world." This quotation is from Arthur Miller's introduction at the beginning of The Crucible. The metaphor of the candle is telling, as it implies a darkness threatening the light. When one thinks of one's mission as defending the light of the world, it is easy to justify extreme measures. By the way, Arthur Miller was comparing the witch hunts of Salem with the McCarthy era in the early 1950s. Over the last few months, I've heard a number of people accuse our administration of acts of unbecoming behavior. Behaviors like favoritism, negligence, and bullying. Bullying? These individuals share their testimonials with great passion and conviction. Yet when questioned about concrete examples, their testimonials oftentimes fall on that "I heard it from another person" variety. Ladies and gentlemen, we cannot stand idle and allow another witch hunt. Mr. Mercado is our leader. Let me tell you firsthand that he's an outstanding leader, an outstanding administrator, and most importantly, and I say this to many of you who I've had your students, either in my class or on my teams, that he's an outstanding advocate for your children. My second purpose tonight is to make a request. There are rumblings across our campus about the possibility of the Teamsters, representing our teachers in collective bargaining. Ladies and gentlemen, I have worked under a school union. I have paid the dues. I have seen how a union destroys the works of great teachers. I ask you tonight to consider taking a vote of opposition to any union that seeks to destroy our fine academy. Now, I showed this speech to my wife, and she said, you know, don't read the rest of it. And any smart man knows that you listen to your wife. She said, speak from your heart. Don't read the cards. And she's right. She always is right. I'm going to share you an anecdote. In every union contract, in every school, they will define the school day. They will say school day starts at 7:30 and it'll end at 3:15 or 3:30. And it's human nature, it just is, that if I get told I get paid till 3:30, I'm leaving at 3:31. And if you don't believe me, go over to Marlboro High School tomorrow, because I think tomorrow's their last day. No, they'll probably be going earlier than this. In the fall, in September, go there at 2:10. Go there at 2:10. Sit in that parking lot and watch the exodus of faculty. And I'll speak from my heart. When I worked there, a young Brazilian girl, not young, she was a senior in my class, and she goes, Mr. Vital, and she comes in with tears. And I said, what's wrong, honey? And she says to me, Mr. Vital, I don't understand the common application for college. And I said, well, what did guidance say? And she said, well, guidance says they can't help me. And I said, what? And I said, honey, let me go, I'll find out tomorrow to let you know. So I got on the guidance, and I said, what's up? She goes, well, she's supposed to come during period 3 and period 5. And I said, well, she has a full schedule. She can't come period 3 and 5. And, well, I'm not staying after school. And I said, what? You're not staying after school? And she goes, no, that's not my job. I get paid until 2:10. And that, I helped her. Because nothing, the principal told me there's nothing I can do, Mark. So I said, well, there's something I can do. And I helped her. That fall, I helped 28 seniors fill out a common application because guidance was told their day ended at 2:10. Now, right now, when I came here from Marlboro High to here, the first thing I was amazed at, as the empathy and compassion of our faculty. Without question, those who have said it tonight are 100% correct. It's not administration that makes this place work, it's the faculty. And the faculty, not me, not just Adam Jewell, everybody stays after to help out your kids. And you know it because you pick them up at 4:30, sometimes 5:30, right? Sometimes 6, right? We do whatever we can to make your kids successful. The kids that come here are no different than the kids that go to Marlboro High School. Yet, they perform better. Why? Because we care. That's the only difference. I have kids with 504s, IEPs. I have kids who have English as their second language. Yet, guys, in 6th grade last year on MCAS, 6th grade Amsa kids were 8th in the state. 6th grade in English. Though I had about 6 or 8 kids whose Brazilian Portuguese was their #1 language. So I'm asking you, if you, and I'm asking you, to take a stand. To take a stand and at some point, if not tonight, at the next board meeting, if you believe that a union will make this school better, then you vote your heart. But all I ask you to do before you vote that, go over to Marlboro High at 210.
Oh, God. Okay. This has really been awful. I don't know really what I'm going to say here. Can you hear me? No. Probably a good thing. Ken? All right. This is, you're right. Everything really feels broken. It really does. I've been here many years, actually I came in the second year. And I will tell you, the teachers here are great. I think the women I work with, the men I work with, and the staff, they're all really wonderful people. We have a division here. It's true. It's terrible. But I will tell you, the things that are going on, and people read to me in the blogs, it's really awful. We teach our children about cyberbullying. This is cyberbullying. Right now, the things that have been said about me, I really don't care. I don't care. But they're not nice. 20 years ago, it could have been really devastating. People telling me I'm having an affair with the ED. Seriously, that was in the blog. Thank you very much. I think the intention for the blog was good. But I think what has happened, like with anything, it's this, you do research on how mass mentality, or you put people in a group, they do awful things. They can do good things too. And this school usually does good things together. We're not doing good things together now. Again, I think that the intentions were good, but they're not, the results are not good. The mistake in the business office, I know it was a single mistake, one mistake. It was a mistake. It wasn't larceny. It wasn't credit card theft. Let me tell you, that's true. I'm really upset just that everybody, and I'm sorry that people have left. I'm sorry people have left. But I'm sorry that they had to do the things that they did to do this. And I wish the parents could just get it together. Get the kids, they're happy, they're doing a good job. Let us work together. Nobody's perfect. Mr. Mercado has come here. He came with experience. Yes, everybody has issues. We have had 3 executive directors. Every one of them had their special things that were great. They all had things that were not great. But we need to work with this, all of us. You know, he without sin cast the first stone. I am not that person, and I don't think anybody here is either. And I'm going to tell you something else. I was not prepared to say this, but after it became personal, you know, Mr. Sweeney over there, who's not related to Jay Sweeney, and I know that for a fact, and I'm sure this is a good thing. I am not happy with what you have just brought out here, because you're bringing up past nonsense and the things that you have the nerve to do that. He's talking about parties. You know, a Christmas party. The very first Christmas party with alcohol was Mr. Sweeney over here and Barbara McGann got together, and oh, he had the money. He could do the foundation because he was the president of the foundation. So he said, I can pay for that. Barbara was like, oh, this is great. So he paid for the alcohol at the White Cliffs. All right? So don't turn around and then say, Mr. Mercado, oh my goodness. And let me tell you something else about the building. He was on this force. He was sitting here, and what he did is he wanted to make sure that the landlord, okay, we're going to work against the land, we're going to get out of these buildings. But in order to do that, he found mold, he found all these awful things. But he didn't want to fix them. We have to make a really good case. So your kids, his kids, they can be in the mold, but it's going to be okay because we're going to get out of here because we're going to make a really bad case. Mr. Mercado came in and said, what, are you crazy? It's safety at first. First argument he had with Mr. Sweeney was about the safety. And he said, I'm not doing that. He got rid of the mold. He came in and brought people in. He said, I want safety here. That's what he did. And so when I hear people say this, that's wrong. And the foundation money, Mr. Mercado, that $20,000 was put into the foundation by mistake.
That was because all the money used to go into the foundation, all the money that was raised with annual giving, everything. We found out later that's not how it's supposed to be. Money that's raised, and it was raised for scholarships. That was one of the items for the annual giving. It said that it would be for scholarships. The foundation cannot give scholarships. That is correct. But the money wasn't supposed to go in there. And a lawyer, one of your lawyers, I think, said, if they can say that it was done by mistake, you can give it back. Well, they said they'd give it back. Then they said they wouldn't give it back. So that $20,000 that you raised, that you put in there for scholarships, is still over there probably. Whatever money's left. We're getting some of it back, but it's taken a lot of time. So I'd ask Mr. Sweeney, why don't we have that $40,000, whatever it is right now, that's in there, that you're holding, and high and mighty sitting there casting, pointing at us? I'm telling you, I've been crying every day over this. I put hours in here. I am here all summer. I am here all year. I am here with all the people here. You see the administrators. I'm here to 8 o'clock sometimes. Doing what? Doing your MCAS, taking care of your children, answering phone calls. Has anyone ever called me when I didn't try to help them for MCAS? Get them into something. We all do this for you. I love this school. I love the people. I love all of you. I do. And these people, I'm sad that you're looking for a union. I wish, if I were a teacher, I would have tried to make a union within the school. I would have tried to bring together not 50% plus one, I'd try to get 100%. That's what I would do. And that's what I would work for. I want everyone to work together, the parents, the kids. That's what we're teaching them. And we're not showing them that. And I'm really upset. I am very passionate about this because I work hard. And I work hard for you. I work hard for your children. And I really feel that we need to appreciate each other and stop this nonsense.
Thank you all for your comments and your passion and everything you do for the school inside and out and your students. We have our next item on the agenda is a discussion, and we're going to start that off with survey results. Melissa's going to lead that discussion, and then we're going to have an open discussion amongst the board about what our part is in helping to address the culture and management practices.
Got it.
So I'll start. Yep, but you're looking for the survey?
Got it.
Okay. So before walking through the
Get it
survey.
close to your mouth.
Before walking through the survey results, I wanted to thank,
Can't hear you.
Before walking through the survey results, I wanted to thank the PTO board for launching the parent survey and sharing the results this past Monday. I appreciated the opportunity to get feedback from parents, and I thank the PTO board for their time and effort to bring the community together. I also want to thank all the parents who took the time that day and today and to respond to the survey and to speak up. I think it's important that you continue to join our board meetings and voice your concerns, and also come to the committee meetings and participate in the conversation. Continue to ask questions. This is how I began my involvement on the board 4 years ago, as a concerned parent in the audience. You will not always get the answers you want, but your voices are being heard and your concerns are being shared. I will start with the family survey launched by the school in May. The family survey is completed annually to gauge parent satisfaction with the school, specifically with academics, school culture, communication, and staff performance. survey was run in November and again this May. I have included November results and layered in the May satisfaction levels for us to identify shifts throughout the year. So satisfaction levels, what I pulled in here is if you were satisfied or very satisfied. So you can extrapolate the dissatisfaction if you like. Overall, the school climate, the current climate is reflected in the results. The overall satisfaction across all areas has decreased. So if you want to, so this is, I wanted to share first, for those of you who are not at the December or January board meeting where we talked about the fall survey results. We had 596 respondents that represented 829 students. There was marked improvement in satisfaction levels across many areas versus the previous spring. The objectives of that survey was to measure the overall satisfaction with Amsa culture and academics. Overall, it was high satisfaction. Understand how parents are accessing information and effectiveness of different communication modes, mainly students, Endline, and Amsa alerts. These are things that we wanted to learn. We also wanted to understand if parents know where to access resources for their students in terms of faculty, support staff, and guidance. Most parents understood how to access resources. And we wanted to understand satisfaction of new and existing programs. So we asked questions about BookFest, the lunch program. And at that point in time, we recommended an evaluation of lunch options based on the response. Our next step, because it was my mistake, I did not include an open comment. So we wanted to make sure when we launch the survey again in the spring that we include an open response question. So if you go to the next slide. So we had 360 respondents. That's a total of represented 514 students. Overall satisfaction levels, as I mentioned, were much lower than, or had decreased across all areas. Our goal was to measure overall satisfaction and provide an opportunity for public comment. So, some of the things that the administration and the board should consider. Parents raised concerns regarding recent staff departures. We all know that. There's a great deal of uncertainty in the parent community and a request for clarity and transparency. Additionally, parents raised concerns regarding levels of homework, Edline, curriculum, and an inconsistency among faculty. So I think I highlighted some of the common themes at the last board meeting, and that's really where that was, but we can go through the slides really quickly. What we do annually, most of these charts are exactly what is run and asked at every survey. So what I've added in there in the red is the spring 2014 survey results, and what I'm measuring is the very satisfied and satisfied. So I put it in red on the left-hand side of the fall 2013, so there's the comparison. And this is the only slide where we see the only increase, I think, is your child's academic achievement. But we did see decreases across all of them. So if you continue. And the goal of the survey is, in general, the board or the administration has run one family survey. It's pulled into our accountability report, and that's where it's reported. We felt a need to run the survey twice a year so we can get continuous feedback from the parents and the community. So again, this is about school culture. There's a lot of questions or comments in there about recreational activities and getting information out to parents in time and communication from, the athletic department or from the drama club or whomever. So I think that's what's driving some of this change in satisfaction level. Again, communication, we saw a decrease. And staff performance, faculty and staff performance, we saw a decrease across all. We did see an increase in contact in some areas, but we saw a decrease in terms of satisfaction rate. So, I don't think the results are surprising.
Could you explain what does contact column mean?
Did I contact this person? Did I have contact with them? Yes or no? So again, the major themes in the comments section that I think that we should discuss as a board, and I know we will as we continue this section of the agenda, is concerns about lack of transparency. In this this survey, it was mainly about the communication of teacher departures. So this was launched at the end of April. There was a lot of activity in the school community, so that was, I think, driving some of those comments. And there's also concerns about teacher quality and concerns about teacher retention. So it's both sides of the coin. Do we want to go to the next survey, the PTO survey? So I'm gonna present the PTO survey results that they did on Monday. Probably won't do it justice as the PTO did, but we did want to share this with the full board. So their goal was to provide a platform for parents to raise their concerns or views. They solicited opinion in 3 broad areas, and they accumulated all that data via email, and then they tallied everything and pulled a summary up for the board. I think I went through that.
Melissa, I don't quite understand this. I missed it at the PTO meeting Monday, but so 1,164 emails went out with the survey.
So my understanding is
89 people responded.
1,164 emails went out. There was a lot that came back via spam or that were rejected. So they estimated, the PTO board estimated that they reached 300 to 400 parents and received 80 messages.
How was the estimate made, though? I don't quite understand that.
I don't know. I think they would have to comment.
When the emails bounce back, you have a number of how many bounce back.
So they were just bad email addresses.
Well, spam, yeah, they were never delivered also.
That's
Some
bad
of them were
email
because we had to make our Gmail accounts, 5 different ones, so it didn't reach everybody.
Okay.
You go to the next one. So I think this is a general question about openness and the environment. Do you feel comfortable raising concerns? Click. And again, because they just, okay. So it's by the different areas and where they felt comfortable talking to people or not.
So could I just ask one question? So am I to imply from that, oh, I'm sorry. If I could just ask a question. So am I to imply from these stats that only about 75 people actually responded to the survey?
89.
89, okay. All right.
What it looks like
Some people may have not answered all the questions that were answered, so.
Assumptions of what their students are getting?
My understanding is this is the parent interaction?
Parent, not child.
Parent, not the child. Because this is feedback from parents.
So 1 in 13 people responded to the survey.
I think in general what we talked about on Monday is that yes, there were 89 respondents. There's some common themes, and there's obviously some things that there's more being talked about here, but there are some common themes from what I read in the comment section. It did not reach, or they did not get the respondent base that the survey that the administration runs got, but I think we just should take the information and understand where it's coming from.
So I have a concern. So I'm just going to look at the Board of Trustees. 37 think that there's negative implications for their child if they bring up a concern, 32 do not. So 89 out of 1,164 people responded. That's 1 in 13 roughly, if my math is right. I'm an English teacher. So I'm to assume.
That's really not fair.
The slide earlier, it estimated 89 out of potentially 300 to 400 parents. That was
89 out of 1,164 people who were in the survey.
No, they did not allow us to receive email accounts.
Okay, so that's my point. So out of 400 who received it, this isn't a true representation of the survey.
That's almost 25%.
That's 37% of the families. If you look at it at 400, it's about 37% of who got it. It represented about 37% of the families. They only had 4 days to fill it out. It went out on a Saturday night and it had to come back on a Wednesday.
I think the intent behind it is valid and wonderful.
Well, obviously
I
you're
think
stating that
it
it's
was rushed.
not valid.
I'm
Well,
trying
it
to
had
say-
to be rushed in order to get you this information.
It's not valid. It makes it invalid if you rush a survey. That's the problem.
Right. Well.
So if 89 people responded out of our entire school community, And I understand that there are problems with the delivery method. If half of you stop paying attention to me because I'm too long-winded, and I make a proposal for something, and there's 78 people here, and 3 people agree with me, 3 people don't, and the rest don't respond because they've tuned out, that's what this data represents to me, by the numbers. 6 out of 78, 1 out of 13. So it's not a true representation of Amsa. It's a representation of 89 people, most of whom I'm assuming have close ties to the PTO because those ones would go through.
No, that's the case. Thank you for saying that, but
I'm not sure. I would think those ones would go through.
Well, that would be an
right?
incorrect question.
I mean, the parent-teacher organization, I saw on the survey, says that it's supposed to go out to parents and teachers. I know I didn't receive anything.
We did not send it to the teachers because it did not go out through the school email. It was not approved to go out in time.
Parent survey.
Right, so I think ultimately, I think everybody knows there were 89 respondents. The PTO believes that it was about 300 and 400 in their base. You take the information, everybody can take the information and use it how they feel they need to. But I'd like to get through it. We can go quickly through the slides and just kind of talk about some of the things. They have.
Go ahead, Melissa.
Overall, concerns about the charter. So the PTO provided a description from the website. Next slide. There are parents, so what they did is they took comments that parents had and they pulled them into themes. So parents believe that Amsa is lowering its standards, catering to changing demographics, shifting emphasis on athletics versus academics. And they included the number of comments that were around that area. Amsa is failing to maintain standards due to poor management. Concerns with science education. I'm going to go through this quickly. I hope that, I'm sorry parents, if you were there on Monday, you were able to get the detailed presentation. The board has received this, so they have had the time to review it. I just want to present it so that we have time to discuss. So, as part of it, the parents recommended actions. I think the board can take this information and utilize it however they feel, but what I really want to focus on is on the concerns. Next. So, financial transparency. AMSA will not release a detailed budget. It's concerned, projected versus actual. Concerns with foundation accounts. And accountability of administration. And so, go ahead. Go back with Chris.
I'm sorry, I find this very difficult to understand. So does this tell me that 43 people said that raises were excessive in 2012?
No, they had some form of accountability of administration concern. And there's some of the concerns they had in the 43.
Oh. They had comments, 43.
So, Chris, I sent out the detailed information for the board as well that the PTO board shared, so we can read this. Thank you. Okay. Build-in lawsuit.
What's the point of running?
As I said, I'm running through the concerns. And
you're not going over that. People who were not there on Monday, they didn't understand why you had to go around the system, why there were only 89 respondents, and what is it that people were asking. So now I've given a very detailed overview. I understand we don't have enough time today, but for the people who were not there on Monday, we're not doing justice, and we're not explaining how they arrived at this data.
So the PTO arrived at this data by collecting information from emails that parents sent. They took the comments, they tallied it, and they pulled them into themes. They identified themes within these 3 major concerns, and then they pulled and they identified how many comments related to those themes. So a parent could have multiple comments under financial transparency that are built underneath this. So it's not 89 when you add them all up. There could be 89 in one and 89 in the other. Am I correct? Yeah. Okay. So I think additionally, parents were asked to identify actions. When I said a few minutes ago was I would like to get through the concerns because the actions are being requested by parents from the board, and the board has already read through the survey, and I'd like to get through the concerns so that we can have a discussion.
So you want me to fast forward to the concerns?
I think, school culture. Concerns related to administration, favoritism, unprofessional, poor qualified, arrogant teacher attrition. I think that was probably the biggest number of comments. Right? Okay. Culture of fear or intimidation, hostile environment, bullying. Concerns specific to different groups, the ED, the principal, the board of trustees, guidance, and I guess that's the science department chair. And concerns specific to teaching staff, poor communication, inconsistent, and or unprofessional application of student policies. So these are actions. What I wanted to share is that coming out of that meeting, the parents have requested that we provide a response to their concerns as a follow-up to the survey. And if we can make a recommendation as to when we think we can provide some sort of response. I don't know if they're looking for an answer to everything, but they're looking for us to provide some type of feedback. So I would propose that we try to maybe task the education committee and the finance committees to review the main themes and the data, because I think that maybe the Amsa charter concerns and the school culture concerns fall under the ed committee's responsibility, whereas the financial transparency concerns fall under finance committee, and then we can set a date or time where we think we can provide an update. And I'll just open it to discussion. Questions?
Go ahead, Mike.
So a few things. As far as I saw concern about that AMS's moving away from their high standards to focus on the changing demographics. I just want to clarify that because I think that's a misconception. That's easy to clarify. So in teaching, my goal as a teacher with every classroom that I have is to make sure that every single student in my classroom learns and understands everything that they're supposed to within my class. Now, in the past, Amsa hasn't always been the best at that, admittedly. I've been here this is the close of my 7th year. I remember my first year, it felt like we didn't service those students who were near the bottom. And I think anybody who has parents who struggled in the beginning would echo that. Now, we want to ensure that we teach all of our students to the best of our ability and that we reach every one of our students. So the focus, and it's one of our board goals, is to ensure that every student has access to the Amsa curriculum. It's not dumbing down the Amsa curriculum. It's ensuring that all students have access. We're doing that through good teaching. Now, I think that's also one of the reasons why some teachers are upset, is because we have an increased expectation of teachers. It's not good enough if you're a teacher who reaches 80% of your students. That's failure as a teacher. I'm sorry. And that's hard for a lot of teachers to accept. But if you are a teacher and you say that I teach in one way, and if you don't get it, that's your problem, isn't that a problem with the teacher? Absolutely. We don't accept that. And that's one of those animosities right now that some teachers have. Talk about the division between some faculty and administration. I can tell you that that's a concern in some departments, is that they don't want to change their way of teaching. They want to keep on going with what they're doing, and they're not reaching all their students, but they're getting enough of them, and that they think that's good enough. But that's not good enough for me. That was not good enough for Jay. That's certainly not good enough for John, and it shouldn't be good enough for any of you as parents either. So we're trying to ensure that all students reach the curriculum. Does that mean that everything's going to stay exactly the same? Of course not. The content of what we use, the tools, the books, may have a little bit of changes here and there. The skills do not. So if you think in terms of what the children are supposed to be learning, that stays the same. What we need to do is ensure that all students have access to those things through a medium that they can access well. Does that help? Are there any questions on that? Because I'm happy to answer them. Yes, sir.
I'm actually very confused. I thought the purpose of a representative is to represent the teachers. The purpose of a democracy is to represent the people. The people may be right, may be wrong, but it is the job of my congressperson to represent me. I'm not sure, are you speaking as the teacher representative, or are you teaching as some authority that is decided to decide how people teach? If the teachers, I'm hearing 50+% of the teachers formed a union. They didn't find a voice. I thought you were the voice. And you're saying
So, right now I'm speaking as a department chair who's in charge of some curriculum. I'm speaking as the co-chair of the education department, of the education committee that oversees curriculum. And I'm also speaking as a teacher among many teachers who believe that we're supposed to educate all students. Now, if you believe that half of the teachers don't believe we should educate all students, I'm sorry, I don't agree with that. And I don't think that has anything to do with
I learned from you that teachers are telling you, I learned from you that teachers are opposed to the point that 80% is not good enough. You told me just like 10 seconds ago.
There are some teachers who are.
And Mr. Chairman, if he's speaking as a teacher, I would like to have every teacher here have the floor so I can hear from everyone.
I'm not a teacher here, I'm just a parent, and I basically agree with everything what he said. I'm just extremely confused. I have no experience with Mr. Daniel, but I've heard only great things about him. I have experience with Mr. Fortier, and he's awesome. And he reached to all of his students. And I said that at the PTO meeting, when my child was getting ready for the final exam in history, she came to me and she told me that, Mommy, I remember everything what Mr. Fortier taught me, but I don't remember anything from that last 2 months. So I think this is kind of confusing what you just said, that what are you trying to hear? They are leaving and they are good. That's all what I wanted to say.
I'm not saying that. I'm telling you what has been said.
Okay, so we're going to turn the discussion back to the board, and I appreciate your interest in speaking, but the next 30 minutes or so are for the board to discuss the question that is put before us is what are the parent and staff concerns about the culture and management practices within the school? And that is our discussion topic for this evening, to have a board discussion about this and determine what our views are, and if we think that there are additional actions that should be taken. Now, I will give you a short update, but there's not much detail. The action item we took away from the last board meeting, which was our only action item, was we recommended that the administration hire a third-party consultant who is experienced in school matters to investigate the culture and management practices within the school through the lens of the teachers to determine what are the root causes and the issues. It took us about 2 weeks to figure out whether we could do that because there had been a union petition filed. So after we got clear with lawyers that we in fact have the right to talk to our teachers, that initiative has been launched. And the first activities happened yesterday in a half-day teaching all staff meeting across the street. There are no early results from that, so we don't have anything to report back to the board of what the third-party consultant has learned. But we do, what they did at the end, I am informed, is that the third party asked teachers to sign up for interviews if they would like. And then over the course of the summer, the third-party consultant is going to do one-on-one phone or in-person interviews with teaching staff to really try to, I think you can get some data from surveys, whether you like how they're structured or how they're distributed, but I think when you have detailed discussions with teachers, you're going to find out a whole lot more about what the issues are. And as Mr. Vital said, we're going to have anecdotes and facts about what these real concerns are. So we're not at the end of that, we're at the beginning of that journey to discover on a fact-based basis what the teachers' concerns are, very specifically, so that we can work with the administration and figure out all the repair that has to be done. Scott, I'll give you the microphone there.
I might not need it. I have a pretty loud voice. I just have a question. How is the third-party process working? Are they going to collect the data and then give it to the board? Or how is that process going to work?
Yeah, they will give it to the board and to the administration. And I think the first piece is an assessment. what can we identify as root causes here that need to be addressed? Now, I don't know what the addressing will be, and they may have some recommendations, but their initial charge is a small assessment to talk to enough teachers so that they have a statistically representative sample to figure out what the root causes are. And we've heard a lot of people's opinions and people's collective conscience from the staff, the administration, and parents. But I think what is very concerning is that there's so much noise in the environment today. And yes, I do agree on the blog that it's very difficult to get to what is really going on. Because we have a body of parents that are dissatisfied, clearly, and we have a body of students or teachers that are very clearly dissatisfied. And the only other fact that we know beyond that is that we believe that half of our teachers have voted to form a union. And those results are still pending, but those are the facts that we have. That fact alone is extremely disturbing. As the chair who's been here a few years and has kids in the school, I don't think there was a whole lot of teachers that came to Amsa to join a union. Of the teachers I know, they're not the people who would say, I want to get into a job protection status, because they're hardworking and passionate about their kids, and they're proud of the results that the kids have achieved in their classroom. So that's perhaps the most disturbing